Hey guys, I'm Eric Ani from MechanicalHub.com. John Carl from Milwaukee. We are at the Milwaukee Pipeline 2024 event. This has
It's
been
going great.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got an awesome tool here we got to get our hands on at the show so far, and I've been using it for like an hour. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the M18 Ringer.
M18 fuel ringer roll groover.
Oh, Ringer Roll
So
Groover.
so
There we go.
it is in our fuel package as well.
And it's got
Yep.
one key.
It does. Yep.
What's really cool about this is a kind of first to world all-in-one tool for roll grooving steel pipe.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this tool is specifically designed to eliminate that harsh trade-off between portability and productivity. We see so many guys out there hand grooving when they don't want to haul that big machine in,
Mhm.
and then having to work in weird spots when they are hooked up to that machine. So this helps kind of bridge the gap between both of those worlds. It gives you incredible runtime and productivity on the ground or in air, but then eliminates that trade-off of, setting up and being in a spot that potentially isn't very optimal.
Well, so traditionally with pipe fitting and sprinkler fitting, this tool is really kind of looking at the replacement of like a pipe threading machine used as a power head,
Sure. Yep.
and then an attachment accessory for the roll grooving. A
Yeah,
lot of intricate, I don't know if it's intricate really, but a lot of adjustments that are all manual.
totally.
You've built into this machine dials with settings that are very easy to comprehend on how to actually set this up so you can get the proper depth roll grooving. And so anybody that's not fully familiar with what we're talking about when it comes to roll grooving, it's a joining process for steel piping. Most often seen in fire suppression systems, potable water distribution, heating systems. A lot of hydronic heating systems are going to use another manufacturer that makes these fittings. The Victaulic is probably the most recognizable name, but there are others
Totally.
that use this grooved pipe and a rubber gasket metal clamp system to join the pipe joints together.
Yep. Yeah, essentially. Yep.
And this machine, like get back to that power head scenario where you've got what essentially is a pipe threading machine
Yeah.
without the thread dies, uh, but with a carriage and an accessory attached to it that allows the roll grooving.
Yep.
So you've got this 200-pound uh,
Tripod or
tripod and power head. You've got to lug around to job sites. It's not necessarily the greatest tool to have to work with. Super reliable, super powerful, and it's
yeah.
worked for decades to this point.
Yep.
But just because something has been done for a long time and that's the way we've done it doesn't mean that's where kind of Milwaukee steps in and say, how can we make this better?
Well, and that yeah, it's an interesting thought, right? Like when we came into this, we could have easily looked at another competitor and just said, "All right, we're going to go in and we're going to make a product that competes with one of the primary segmentations there, right?" We didn't do that. You heard earlier in the presentation, but we spend a lot of hours researching the workflow and not looking at what are the products that exist today, but what are the problems that our users see in those applications. So one of the big things that we ran into was every job site we went on, there was usually a some sort of combo groover attached to a large machine, and normally there was a service groover or a in-place groover that was kind of floating around. And the things we saw was we saw guys throwing their body weight, their shoulders, their elbows into trying to crank a manual groover when maybe power wasn't around, or maybe it was only a couple grooves on the other side of the site. So I decided to do those
Right.
manually. And then we saw the opposite. We saw, these big power drive systems set up, and, obviously, moving those into a transportation mode is very difficult. And we also saw a lot of guys using these big threaders that were only grooving that day. So, they're hauling this huge machine out, or having to set up in a location maybe that's all the way on the other side of the job site. And they're walking pipe and taking measurements on each side. So they're taking all these unnecessary steps back and forth. So when we approach this process, we didn't necessarily think about it from what is a service side, what is a on ground or stationary side. We thought, okay, how can we actually go in here and interrupt and make that workflow that much more streamlined? So the idea behind this tool is it's in a super compact form for the
Right.
sizes it does. but then also be able to really set up anywhere. So the setup to finish is incredibly fast because of the versatility it drives. Whatever that situation presents you, this is a great tool for it because if you're on ground, great. This is an awesome tool to work with. If you're in air, it's operates in a less than a 4.5 inch radial clearance. So for those tight applications where you've got other pipes nearby, it's going to fit in the vast majority of those applications as well.
Well, and when I was using it over on the in the demo area of pipeline here, it was really cool. It just kind of reimagining how this has this creates workflow in a different way, I guess
Yeah,
is the best way to say that. Where before you had the power head and the groover set up on the tri stand, and then you had to set your pipe up and if you're working stationary
totally.
on pipe stands, rollers, things like that, where the now you've taken this machine and instead of a stationary power head and groover, you've got a machine that spins around the pipe. You don't have to have pipe rolling around.
Right.
It could just be positioned on the tri stand on the
Yeah.
vise.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things, right? Is like before you had all this fixturing that
Yeah.
was going on and you're always spinning a pipe and then we saw a lot of guys holding on to the spinning pipe trying to keep it from walking or tracking. This eliminates all the hand inputs into the grooving process. So we like to say eliminates the ratchet. You don't have a ratchet to index the tool. You don't have a ratchet to drive the tool. You're really keeping your hands away from that operation during the process. And we've also added a bump stop at the rear, and that's a long distance away from the grooving end of the tool as well. So there was a lot of safety considerations in mind with that,
Mhm.
and allowing them to do that. But the other big thing was when you spin a pipe, you have to take the pipe end to the groover. And what we saw is every job site has tons of pipe stands and tri-vices around. Ours has the ability to fold into a briefcase carry, so it makes it pretty easy to move around the job site. We saw guys that couldn't groove in hallways or control rooms because
They
they're
didn't have
working
enough
with
space for the pipe.
totally. Yeah, yeah. The hallway is narrower. They can't hurricane the pipe, or they're trying to like put it up in the ceiling. Working with Schedule 40, it's heavy,
Yeah.
so having to do that and trying to negotiate the pipe around in that space just didn't make a lot of sense. So
And with this machine, you can just take the instead of having the stationary power head, you could take this off one end of your 20-foot long pipe,
yeah,
walk to the other side, and just roll groove it there because this machine is spinning around the pipe versus the pipe spinning around the machine.
totally. Yeah. The only thing, we recommend with it is make sure your pipe's fixtured. So chai vise is a great way to do that.
Right.
There are other ways to do it as well. If it's coupled in the ceiling, that's a fixtured pipe. You can groove on that as well. So we just want to make sure that the safety element's still there of, securing the pipe, but we've created a number of ways you can do that. And the tri vise is a super easy portable format that's readily available, and it was an easy place to target for us when looking at the workflow.
Well, so this is just a complement to other pipe working tools in your portfolio, but really the first time you've answered the call for kind of that fire suppression system where you had the threader. Of
Yep,
course, you've got other tools that work with pipe, but this is really answering that all around, replacing a couple tools really in one, right? So now
yeah,
you've got the ability to roll groove pipe without the power head,
yep,
without the accessory roll groovers or the that would fit onto the power head or the service groover in place that because this could do all of it. Now your demo was really interesting to me because it's a sizable tool. It's not like it's compact for what it's doing, but
totally.
it's doing a lot of work. So there's a lot of hardware inside the case of this
Yeah,
tool. And
yeah.
it's not, it doesn't weigh 10 pounds. It weighs closer to 40.
Yeah, it's around 40.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but to
yep,
see you take that with ease, now I know you've had practice, but I did it myself so I can just test to how simple it was.
yeah,
Fit it up on a 4-inch pipe that was racked up vertical, and with just 4.5 inches, clearance all the way around is all you need. I was able to clamp that onto the pipe with a push of one button.
mhm,
Once the machine was turned on, I held it up there, one hand, pushed the button with my thumb, and it locked right onto that pipe. It
Totally.
was hanging from the pipe. It wasn't on top. So that was really impressive to see a 40-pound tool just like very, very simply clamp on securely. And then you hit start. And what I thought was really cool about just the process of how you fit that up and then hit start, you've timed it so your software won't allow it to start spinning immediately.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
a safety thing, right?
Totally. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. We wanted to give the user time to, pull themselves away from the situation. You don't know, what the work is exactly in all situations, right? Like, you might have something there. We wanted to give them enough time to, be able to, you don't need a ton of distance from the tool, but at least be able to, pull back enough that as it starts moving, it's not going to come in contact with you.
The first thing I thought honestly was like those cold days where you're bulked up in your workwear and stuff. Maybe a cuff on a jacket or something is unsnapped, things like that, right?
Totally.
And if you're standing there and if you hit a power button and the thing just starts spinning, you're asking for trouble. So it gave you how many seconds does it delay?
So it's about 10 seconds.
Yeah, and so that just, I can just make sure, and if I decided I didn't like the way it was fit up, I could stop it before
Totally.
it started, or once it starts, you can actually stop. So you brought that up earlier. On the end, there's this switch on the bottom. You call it a bump stop,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
so you're far enough away from the working head of the tool, so you're not gonna get your fingers anywhere near a spinning, rotating, looking for a power
Yeah.
button kind of thing. You can just tap it, stops
Always
immediately.
a central location too.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so it's not gonna be blocked by a wall or anything because if you had to get to the power button, it's on one side, it might be up against a rack of pipe or something like that.
Somewhere, yeah, that might be less accessible. The other thing that we've done with the firmware in this tool is, if you do start a groove and let's say you are in the wrong setting, um, you know, the what you can do, and there's other controls that the tool has as well, but if you go to adjust that post hitting that button, it will reset the process for you as well. So we've also added in some safety elements there where, we've seen, guys think, oh shoot, I was in 3 inch, now I'm on 4, and they go to change that. That's going to stop the operation as well and reset it. It doesn't mean you have to do anything different. Once you set it in 4, you just hit go again and it's ready to groove. So
So from the start, we've talked about already like just setup, right?
yeah.
This machine, the initial offering Milwaukee is gonna have is gonna do 1.25 to 6 inch on schedule 10
Yep.
uh black iron pipe.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And then you've got the capability to do 1.25 to 4 inch on schedule 40 with
Yep.
this machine.
Yeah, with this tool right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Now
Ours
that 4 to 6 inch on schedule 40, that is this tool can't do that. But you're coming to market with a second tool. It's just not available just quite yet.
yeah, so, the way that will work is that that tool will fast follow this one. So, the expectation for this one is to ship in March of '25.
Mhm.
That tool will quickly follow behind it. The biggest difference that you're gonna see with that tool is obviously your UI, your pipe selection is gonna be 2 to 6 inch. The second piece is it's gonna have a larger lower roller. So the reason why you lose 1.25 is the roller becomes so large that it doesn't fit the pipe. But what that buys you on the other end, especially if you're doing a lot of 4 and 6 inch, which, on the pipe fitter side of the business, we see a lot more of that. It's going to buy you faster cycle times. So, when we've cycled this tool on those pipe sizes, it's still doing it at an incredible rate. But what you're going to see is that increase in speed down to, somewhere around 2 minutes. It's also going to increase your runtime. So there's less travel of that lower roller, so less overall draw on the battery pack. So those are the two major benefits from that. There'll also be better performance in terms of flaring. So flaring is something that we see especially on larger pipes,
Right.
the belled edges. It's one thing that is really cool about this tool and adds back to the controllability is the indexing that we do. So every time it makes a pass and sinks that top roller, that's all controlled internally. So what you'll see now is you'll see this mix of, when you're using a ratchet or a hydraulic lever, there's a lot of variation in that indexing.
Right.
Well, that leads to a lot of effects and flaring and all sorts of, other
Walking
walking. Walking's another,
because
yeah,
you're tightening too much or too fast. You're not allowing the tool to do the job as needed based on the
totally.
rotation speed, things like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the clamp piece of that's huge, right? So, like, you saw it. When you clamp down, it goes green right away. That clamp force has been designed and proven to help prevent walking. So it's there's a combination of things that kind of go into it. It's the speed at which it travels. The first couple passes will always be slower, and that's the intent. There is to one, put down a really great initial groove. The other piece is just from a user comfort side, being able to watch that as it's working and know, the feeling of more control over that at any point during those first few passes.
Well, also one of the things I thought that was actually I didn't quite expect to see it with this tool, but you in your demo, and you'll see video of this, I'm sure. It's really cool how you could set this up. It starts grooving and the user can actually just walk away and start doing something else. You don't have to sit there and monitor it. More or less. I mean,
Yeah,
you need to
yeah,
be there, but I'm saying, like, your hands are free. You can be maybe getting a couple
totally.
couplings put into a box or something like that, threading some nuts together on some hangers, as long as you're attentive to what's happening, right? Or am I should I not say
No,
that?
no, no, you're fine. No, the official statement on this is, be aware of what's going on with the
Sure,
tool.
sure.
But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the body wear that it pulls off of you, you're not interacting with the unit
Yeah,
while it's making the groove. And that's, the other big thing that we added to that was the ability to recover the tool after the grooving cycle has ended. So, this tool, if you end your grooving cycle, and let's say you are fitting up something close by, well, you don't have to run to grab that tool after its cycle's over.
right, right.
If you come back a half an hour later, the tool's going to be in the exact same spot.
That's pretty cool. Okay, before we run out of time, I've got a bunch of comments on a post that I did showing this tool in action. So I just want to
Yeah,
ask you a couple of them. First comment was how much and when do I get it?
sure. So I mentioned the two SKUs before. The inch and a quarter to 6 inch four or 10 and inch and a quarter, 4 inch 40 model, this model here, will retail for around 4,000. The larger model is going to retail for around 5,000.
Bunch of comments on the video stating that they were watching this video while they were roll grooving on their stationary machine. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
John, you made a big impression so far today, but I think this is going to make a big difference in the pipe fitting and sprinkler fitting world. Of course, plumbing as well for the kind of the process piping, potable water, big systems. Um, what's next? Anything on the
We're
horizon?
just we're just getting started, man. This
Oh,
is, this is a great step forward in going after the mechanical trades and being dedicated to them. Um, you know, there's a lot of opportunity here. I mentioned before we're out in the field all the time, and we're constantly reviewing these workflows and looking at it as a workflow, not as a specific tool to tool comparison. So there's a lot left on the table here, and I would expect in the next couple of years to see a lot more coming from Milwaukee Tool.
it's very cool. I want to thank Milwaukee for having me and, of course, for having me at Pipeline. But this is extra special. I was super excited to sit down with you
Yeah,
today and talk about this. I can't wait to see this out in the field on a big scale where people are using it every single day. Good job,
yeah.
John.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.